Sometimes it can frustrate people because they're like, no, but what's the formula? Like, what do I have to study? What's the course that I have to do? And my recommendation is always, if you want to find your purpose, you got to listen to your heart, not your head. You got to follow your intuitive impulses and instincts, not the things that make sense.
Oh, 100%. And it's the same as me. Like when I had, that moment, sat on the end of my bed, just finished another 12-hour day, really overworked, sitting in busy, managing 3 kids, business, like it was just crazy town. Like it was just so out of control. Same thing. And then I went to my first event and it was with my beautiful mentor, Kerwin Ray, who I've been with, and for anyone listening, like Kerwin passed away last year, which absolutely broke my heart, who I've been with the whole time. And that was the first time I ever heard the word purpose. I didn't even know what that was. And when it came to running to the back of the room, I was there. Like I just knew straight away this was exactly what I was looking for.
I will say repeatedly until everybody understands it, is anything that you're avoiding doing is because of an emotion you're avoiding feeling.
I love it. So if you were just thinking about that, we are in that achievement society. Just say you had a business owner that came to you now and it was, they'd achieved quite good success. What would be some of the tools that you give them to go, oh, hold on, and they've sort of recognized that maybe there's not enough joy, there's not enough fulfillment, they're getting out of bed, they're actually not living their ideal day or week, or not having enough breaks, all those things. What's some of the tools that you use for that?
So the way that we traditionally do goal setting suits achievement based. So for me, I tried to come up with a tool for clients of what could we actually do to have a forward vision, goal setting and intention setting, but in a fulfillment based way. And so I'll always ask somebody, what's your goal? And they'll give me, or they'll write down what they want to do and what they want to have. And I'll say, okay, second question. What do you think, and I'll go through each goal, what do you think that is going to stimulate for you emotionally? What do you think you will feel from having that or from doing that?
I'm super excited that I've got Jess Cameron joining me today. We actually met at an event last year at the photo booth. Jess was one of the speakers at the event, and it was a great opportunity for me to actually ask you to come onto the podcast. And I loved your talk. Primarily you've been a mindset coach, but you're actually moving over to the emotional intelligence and how that plays a massive role in human potential. Like me, our obsession with self-mastery and, helping business owners master themselves so they can actually hold more in their business, succeed more, but also enjoy the process. I think that's the big thing, and so I'm really looking forward to diving deep into this. But I know for me, and what drove me into propelling into this, finding out about myself and, the self-mastery piece is that, 12 years ago, I got the opportunity to hold the mirror up. I was working 60 hours in my business. I was on complete default mode. Had no systems process, didn't know me, and it propelled me into this journey. And so, Jess, for you, what has propelled you to this journey?
It's a big question. It seems like a simple question, but it's reviewing my entire life into how I got to this point. I've been, as you said, a mindset performance coach for almost 10 years now. And before that, figuring out what it is that I wanted to do was a very difficult process. I think if you're somebody that relates to this, it's like that you could do lots of different things. You got lots of different passions, you got lots of things that you like or that you're skilled at. And so even in high school, just the whole concept of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I went from I want to be a lawyer to I want to be an interior designer to I want to be a psychologist to I want to be a teacher. Like just this spectrum of different careers that I thought I could do and that I thought I would be passionate at. I never actually could settle on something that I'm like, that's me. That's what I want to do. And I spent a lot of time like traveling, meeting new people, immersing myself in different cultures, something that I'm very passionate, that is an experience that helps people become more well-rounded within the world and within themselves. And then I went to uni and I was studying psychology. I thought, yep, that's something that I would absolutely love to do. Like you, I'm obsessed with human behavior and human potential. I was like, it doesn't matter what career I thought, that was always the underlying theme that I loved. And I remember one day sitting in a university class, and it was a class that I loved. And, I did pretty well at school. Did well in my assignments when I did them, but I did pretty well at school. So there was nothing that was particularly wrong. There was nothing to trigger to me that I was in the wrong place. But I remember sitting there in a classroom that I loved, and I just had this overwhelming feeling of I'm not in the right place. Mentally, that made no sense to me. I was like, what do you mean? As I said, I'm good at school. Obviously, there was never ever a thought in my entire life that I wouldn't do uni. Like that's just something that you would complete and finish. And so, but it was one of those moments where it's like I just couldn't shake that feeling. So it didn't mentally make sense, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't in the right space. And I went home. I was about 23 at the time, and I sat on the couch and I was like, if somebody asked me what my dream job was, I still couldn't tell them. I still could not say that this is my dream job. And I was quite frustrated and, confused. And I remember sitting there being like, Jess, what is it? If you could do anything, what is it that you would do? And I don't know how to explain it, if it was like a vision or a thought, but it was a knowing that I would be a teacher, but it was to adults. Not to, kids or young, primary school or high school. It was like adults in some way. Now, Beck, I'd never heard of the term self-help, never heard of the term personal development, couldn't tell you who Tony Robbins is. Like, this was a complete industry I had no understanding of, like absolutely no understanding of. But I thought, I'm going to be speaking and teaching in some capacity to like a room full of adults. And I remember going and telling my stepmom at the time, I was like, please don't tell anyone, because I'm pretty sure this isn't a career. I don't think that this is something that I can actually do. But I had this feeling, and she was like, Jess, that's the first time you've ever told me something that I'm like, that's you. That's exactly what you're meant to be doing. But Beck, that took me on years of then knowing that there's two kinds of like frustrations. One, you have no clue what your purpose or your passion is. And two, you know what it is and you've got no clue how to achieve it, no clue how to make it happen. And that was me. I was like, great, now I have this knowing and I have no idea how to make this a reality or to make this a career. And, maybe that's something we can talk about later, but one series of events after the other of me just following, not what my mind said, but my intuition. I ended up working for a company where he said, Jess, here's your salary, create a role. And I started doing mindset performance coaching, and that took off. And then I was headhunted by other big international companies. And then for the last 5 years, I've been doing my own business with it. So that's kind of my journey and my process into it. And sometimes it can frustrate people because they're like, no, but what's the formula? Like, what do I have to study? What's the course that I have to do? And my recommendation is always, if you want to find your purpose, you got to listen to your heart, not your head. You got to follow your intuitive impulses and instincts, not the things that make sense.
Oh, 100%. And it's the same as me. Like when I had, that moment, sat on the end of my bed, just finished another 12-hour day, really overworked, sitting in busy, managing 3 kids, business, like it was just crazy town. Like it was just so out of control. Same thing. And then I went to my first event, and it was with my beautiful mentor, Kerwin Ray, who I've been with, and for anyone listening, like Kerwin passed away last year, which absolutely broke my heart, who I've been with the whole time. And that was the first time I ever heard the word purpose. I didn't even know what that was. And when it came to running to the back of the room, I was there. Like I just knew straight away this was exactly what I was looking for. I'd been to a Tony Robbins event. It was just a mild one where he was only on stage for a little bit. So it just sort of started the process. It was really beautiful. And then, but oh my gosh, what a beautiful space to land. Mm-hmm. And it's such a shame that this isn't taught in schools.
Yeah.
And, to actually look at yourself. And as you said that, you would have been looking at yourself as you did this work. And I love, you've had a real transition, because it used to be mindset. Everybody talks about everything's mindset. And there hasn't been a lot of talk about emotional intelligence or, and coming to the heart. A lot of people are thinking here, and I mean, knowing the biggest thing I think I've learned around mindset is that we're conditioned and coded,
Yeah.
from 0 to 7 years of age.
Yeah.
And, a lot of our programs and our thought process behaviors, our patterns come from there. And that's like I was living completely unconscious, and I didn't even know that there was a difference between conscious and subconscious mind and all those things that you've learned along the way, I've learned along the way. But I'd love for you to share, because, when we think about, Joe Dispenza, like, it was one of the guys that I really listen to, and he always says that our thoughts are the language of the brain and our feelings are the language of the body. And, how important is it that we actually, bring both together?
To me, in my experience, with personal experience and experience with countless clients now, it's everything. And I am somebody that used to live very much in the mind. And, my whole life experience, as you said, was kind of neck upwards. And that to me was the goal. And you think about things in society, everything that we're taught and we're conditioned is mind over matter. Just think differently and you'll feel better, or do a pros and cons list. So stay in your brain and analyze every decision that you make. Like, leave your feelings at the door if it's a workplace. Like, the amount of times probably everybody's heard that, where it's just like we really villainize emotions and we push it down and we suppress it. And because of that, we become a society that's very, very weak in our emotional capacity, and we don't even flag that as an issue, because we've villainized it, because we've made sensitivity or emotions the thing that's going to hold you back in life. And to be more logical and more rational and more practical is the way that we should be. And that's the conditioning that we received. And so that's the conditioning I received. And because I do have a very strong mindset and very fortified and resilient in that area, I also never knew that there was a potential issue there for me.
And I wonder, has there been a challenge where, because I know for me last year or 2 years ago, I hit the beautiful perimenopausal age, and all the mindset things were not working. The toolkit was not working. I was like, oh my God, I've got all the tools and I'm just not getting there. And that was just like, oh my goodness, it's come back into my body.
Yeah.
So it was a real, and this is why I really wanted to get you on here. Has there been something like that for you?
Yeah, so last year was the first time that I actually experienced it. So I remember I had a woman years ago, which kind of planted the seed for me. She told me, she was like, Jess, you don't feel your feelings. And I remember at the time being like, this lady doesn't know me at all. Like, clearly I'm an empath. I'm so sensitive. I feel my feelings. I feel your feelings. I feel everybody's feelings, like, sort of in that space where it's like, no, I don't think that's correct. Like, I do really feel my emotions. And she was very stern and point blank said to me, no, you know how to articulate what you're feeling. You don't actually feel what you're feeling. And I didn't fully comprehend that at the time, but that was like one of those true slaps that I just knew in my core. She's right about that there's something in that. And so what I thought was mental strength and fortitude was actually in a big part disassociation. And it wasn't until last year that I had the experience where I recognized how weak I was emotionally. In my emotional capacity, I separated from my husband. So I was going through a separation, and somebody that I still dearly love and loved at the time. It wasn't a nasty separation. It wasn't because anything was wrong or anyone did anything wrong. It was just not right for us in both of our, I guess you'd say, highest purpose. And so that was crippling. And all of the mindset stuff went out the window. And I realized what I used to do was, if I was feeling upset or if I was feeling angry, I could just essentially talk myself out of it. I could change my perception on the situation and be like, okay, I'm no longer angry. I'm no longer upset. And that's what that woman knew. She's like, you're not actually sitting and processing the feelings. You're just going, oh, I feel a little tinge of something, change my perspective about it, and now I'm not feeling it. And so last year I would just have days back, but I would wake up and feel utter shit. I just would feel terrible. And nothing, I couldn't associate the feeling with a thought, so I couldn't just change the thought. And that was terrifying for me. That was actually really quite scary, because I was like, if I can't change my thoughts and feel better, I actually have no other strategy to get myself out of this place or to feel better or to feel good. And that's when I had to learn through that painful experience how to increase my emotional capacity, which is, when we talk about emotional capacity, it's essentially your ability to feel an emotion and to not have it destroy you, essentially. Yeah, to not be capsized by the emotion, but
To
to
be able to
process.
process it too, in a healthy manner.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my experience, and I'm grateful for it, because I'm a far better person and coach, and I've never ever felt more internally powerful and stable in my entire life than when I've coupled emotional strength with mental strength.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I think by not processing in a healthy way, it's where we do see people get sickness.
Yeah, yeah.
Mental health. It can be either things that in their bodies,
Hmm.
but I completely can understand exactly where you're coming from. Same thing. I don't think our parents had the emotional intelligence back in the day. I mean, I think the world is becoming definitely more aware.
Yeah.
And so, what were some of the things that you actually did for you to actually, to create that change, and for you to actually process those emotions, and to be able to come out the other side, build your capacity, which is, when you're building your capacity, it means that you're going to be able to handle more anyway, bigger business, more clients, be able to share your experience. But what were some of the things that you did? What are some of the tools?
Yeah, so the practical. And I think that's one of the things when we talk about emotions, a lot of people kind of tune out, because they're like, where's the practicality in that? There actually is practical approaches, I believe, to feeling your emotions, and to processing your emotions. So for me, the first step was to learn how to not judge the emotion, to learn how to not belittle it or talk myself out of it. That is such a key for me, especially when you're somebody that can very quickly disassociate before even becoming conscious of it. I was like, how do I not make feeling this hard and painful emotion wrong? And that's the key, because as soon as we make it wrong, that we're feeling pain, or that we're feeling sadness or sorrow or anger or rage, as soon as we make an emotion wrong, we immediately resist it. And
Yeah.
anything that's wrong, we try to fix, and we try to change quickly. And so that's where that resistance comes in. And a universal law is, anything you resist will persist. So I was like, if I'm resisting this negative feeling emotion, doesn't mean the emotion's negative, but it's a negative feeling emotion. If I resist that, it's going to persist. It's going to keep, I'm going to keep feeling this day after day, week after week. So I was like, how do I not judge it? How do I not make it wrong, and just make it an emotion, which is a part of the human experience? And all emotion teaches us something. All emotion is for our benefit if we allow it to be. So that was the first step. It was like, okay, you're feeling this, don't make it wrong. Number two, don't make it mean something. So like, as soon as we're like feeling something that doesn't feel good in our body, the brain is going to try and figure out the threat. So the brain doesn't know the difference between physical and emotional pain. And so it's like, okay, we're feeling distress. What is the threat? And it will start rapid fire potential meanings for why you're feeling distressed. And I've always found that whatever meaning we put to it, that's going to create a pain association moving forward. Right? And that's going to, so for example, let's say that you went through a really terrible breakup, and the meaning that you put to that pain and that heartbreak is, I shouldn't have trusted somebody. I shouldn't have opened up so much. I shouldn't have loved so deeply, or, relationships hurt me. And if we're unconscious with the meaning that we put, then the next time you go to
Take the
trust
story.
somebody again, or opening up or loving, you're going to be like, and your body is going to start sabotaging, because it's been told this is the problem, avoid it at all costs the next time. So the meaning that we put to our emotions is going to have long-term effects as well as short-term effects. So I was like, okay, if you're waking up, Jess, and you're feeling rubbish, one, don't judge that. Two, don't put a meaning to it. Just beyond, I don't feel good today. I've got things, obviously, that emotions that I'm processing, things that don't feel good. And those two things diffuse all of the resistance to the emotion. Then I can move on to allowing it to be there. So I don't judge it. I don't put too much meaning to it. And then I can allow the emotion to be present for as long as it's needed to be present.
Yeah.
I literally just let it move through my body. And the fourth thing is physically move the energy.
Yeah.
So emotions and energy. So then I'm like, how do I physically express this, physically move it? And, you know, we talk about examples of kids, but kids are the absolute best example that we have of processing emotions and not getting stuck in them.
Or animals as well, you see them shake it out, you know what I mean? Or what people do, and we see this, is they have a feeling that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And don't pay attention to it. Then they find themselves in the cupboard, eating the cupboard out, a bottle of wine.
Yep.
You know, or, you know, then it's driving them to something that will instantly give them some, you know, security or make them feel better. Like, you know, and this is why we see so many people that are, you know, getting on the drugs or, you know, all those kind of things.
Relief.
Because they're just like, oh, I don't want to feel this. Like we've been told that, you know, if you know, you don't want to feel your feelings because that makes you feel like shit. Yeah. So, you know, it's one of the things, or even mindless scrolling. There's so many things. There's so many habits that come from those feelings. Now, I remember you saying at the conference, now just correct me, is when you have that, I think it's sabotage, or when you don't do what you want to do, it's because you don't want to feel an emotion.
Yeah.
Love you to go into that a little bit more, because I was like, oh, I think I even put it on my stories that night. I was like, this is gold.
Yeah. So one of the things that I will say repeatedly until everybody understands it is anything that you're avoiding doing is because of an emotion you're avoiding feeling. And that is the moment when I started to comprehend that for myself. That's when I realized, hang on, it's not just about mindset. In fact, it's our emotional capacity or lack of emotional capacity that is holding us back from our dreams, from our desires, from all the things that you want. And that's sort of where I've gone down this vein as well, where it's like if we're not doing a task, if we're not making a decision, if we're not having the conversation, all of us knows that there's things that we could be doing that would better our lives, and yet we don't do them. So why do we not do them? It's not necessarily because you're thinking bad thoughts. It's that task or that conversation or that decision is going to stimulate emotions for you. And if you have not got a high capacity to feel those emotions, you won't do it. You'll avoid it, you'll sabotage it, you'll escape it, with what you're talking about, all the different escapism mechanisms that we have, the bad habits that we have. The actual core issue of those bad behavioral patterns or detrimental behavioral patterns is emotions that we're not feeling. And you can't process an emotion, therefore get it out of your body so it's not doing damage. You can't process an emotion you're not allowing yourself to feel. And so that is, I believe, one of the most powerful tools I've found for myself and for my clients, when it'll save you so much money on coaches, so much money on psychologists, and, you know, hours of podcasts and reading books, and everybody is seeking outside of themselves to find the answer to what is my block. What is the thing that's holding me back from really extracting my potential, achieving my potential, getting to the level that I want to get to? They're like, Jess, please tell me, or Beck, please tell me, like, what is my block? What is my block? Asking yourself that one powerful self-evaluation tool of what am I avoiding feeling? You are going to find your block, well, I wouldn't say straight away, but you're going to find your block. The more that you pull that thread, you will recognize that getting to this level that I desire in my life requires me feeling these emotions. And if I'm avoiding feeling those emotions, you're never going to get to that level.
It's amazing, isn't it? So good. I love it. How important is purpose? Like, and for me, it was the absolute game changer for me. So I was very passionate. I never heard the word purpose or why I existed or all those things. Um, I didn't know how to articulate it when I first started to do the work. But how important is it having a compelling vision?
Purpose to me is the key cornerstone for having a fulfilling life. So the way that I talk about it is I believe that we as a society are in an achievement-based model. The work that I do and the work that I'm passionate about is getting into a fulfillment-based model. And I, like you, will have very successful clients that have achieved a lot of wealth, a lot of business success, and they're like, Jess, I feel empty. I do not feel what I expected this level of success was going to cause me to feel. And we can have an entire list of achievements that we have gotten by our own strength and willpower in our life, and we can feel a sense of satisfaction from achievement. But if we want to feel fulfilled, which means we have an enriched life, the things that we do fill our cup, that requires purpose and passion. And it doesn't have to be a purpose of, I want to change the world, or I want to speak on stages to millions of people, or I want to be a coach. That purpose can be
I want to be a good mum.
Exactly. I want to care for the people that are around me. I want to provide them a good life. Its purpose is the thing that drives us to what will allow us to feel fulfilled. And you look at it in society, the only time that we actually have in our life, if we're in a 9 to 5 job, maybe 0 to 5 years old, you're doing whatever it is that you are drawn and compelled to do. Then you're in the school system, and the school system is all achievement based. You do this, you get this mark. You do this, you get this award. You do this, you receive this in return. And then that's prepping us for the work system. And the work system is, you do this, you get this salary. You do this, you get this bonus. You do this, you get this promotion. Everything is what you do and achieve gives some sort of reward. And that's how we live our entire life until maybe we retire. And then if you still are lucky enough to have your health intact by being out of an alignment in an achievement-based model for your entire life, you might get 10 or so years to actually do the things that you love and you're passionate about. In your entire life, the amount of years you actually spend doing the things that light you up and bring you joy should be enough to wake us up now at this age before we get to the twilight of our lives and being like, what am I actually doing? And a fulfillment, living life, feeling fulfilled is about purpose and is about knowing what it is that you want to feel as well as what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So if you were just thinking about that, we are in that achievement society. Just say you had a business owner that came to you now and it was, they'd achieved quite good success. Mm-hmm. What would be some of the tools that you give them to go, oh, hold on, and they've sort of recognized that maybe there's not enough joy, there's not enough fulfillment, they're getting out of bed, they're actually not living their ideal day or week, or not having enough breaks, all those things. What's some of the tools that you use for that?
So I like to do goal setting differently. This is something that I thought the way that we all do goal setting suits achievement-based model. What do you want to do? What do you want to have? Pluck out a number from anywhere and put that down as a goal, or you've read a personal development book, or you've listened to somebody that's successful and this is what they do, or this is what they have, and you pop that down on your goals list, and you do that year in, year out, and you're barely ever actually connected to them, really emotionally connected to those goals. It's just something that you're striving for and you're hustling for and you're grinding for, and technically it brings you probably a lot of stress and not a whole lot of great feeling emotions in the pursuit of those things. And so the way that we traditionally do goal setting suits achievement based. So for me, tried to come up with a tool for clients of what could we actually do to have a forward vision, goal setting and intention setting, but in a fulfillment based way. And so I'll always ask somebody, what's your goal? And they'll give me, or they'll write down what they want to do and what they want to have. And I'll say, okay, second question, what do you think, and I'll go through each goal, what do you think that is going to stimulate for you emotionally? What do you think you will feel from having that or from doing that? That's an evaluation in and of itself that's transformative. People don't actually consider what they want to feel. They assume they're going to feel something, but when they've achieved it and they don't actually feel it, then they're disillusioned, deflated, or depressed. So I'm like, when you're setting these intentions or these goals, what is it that you're wanting to feel? That, once they've got those two parts, then I say the feelings, the things that you want to feel, that's actually the goal. That's actually the intention. Now, the things that you're doing or, trying to do or trying to have, that's actually the means. That is what your mind has come up with as the means to feel something.
Yeah, I love that way.
And then we can be far more flexible with the means if we know that's actually not going to help me achieve feeling that way. So let's say, Beck, that someone said, I want 100K month. And I want to be a millionaire and I want to have 100K months. Pluck that number out of somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you expecting that will allow you to feel? I will feel free, or I will feel calm because I'm not worrying about money anymore. I won't feel stressed.
Secure.
Feel secure. I'll feel respected. They're going to say what they feel. Okay. 100K month, depending on how you're doing it, you might feel far less calm, way more stress. You might feel far less free.
More.
Exactly. You have to do way more, so you're less free. You're going to have a company with loads of employees. Like, what would that actually create feeling-wise for you? Because it's not what your intention is. But you've picked a goal that you assume will be it. What if a 20K month or a 30K month or a 50K month allows you to feel that? But a 100K month doesn't. These are just numbers that we're talking about,
yeah.
Just as examples, but really actually scrutinizing our goals and evaluating, am I actually going to feel the thing that I want to feel from that goal?
Yeah.
Or is that just a mind assumption that I'm not going to feel it? And as I walk that path, if you start to recognize that, then you can be more flexible with the means. Like, what I want to do or what I want to have. Actually, I'm going to change that because that's not my real goal. Then you're not going to constantly be feeling this failure and success, because arbitrary goals, again, put you in an achievement-based model, which is failure and success. Did you achieve the thing or didn't you? Did you fail or did you succeed in that goal? Now, we don't care as much about that because it's all flexible around what do I want to feel. How I get there actually doesn't matter that much. That's the part I can be flexible and lenient with and surrender.
And I think it's who you become along the journey more so than anything anyway, isn't it? Like, it really is. It's always the journey of becoming. And we do planning every 90 days with our clients, and and our goal setting, we always understand why.
Yes.
Like,
the why is the emotion to it too.
Yeah. Why is this important? If you get that goal, why is it important? We've really started to put all of that into our planning process.
Yeah.
Super important, because as you said, a lot of the time it is just pluck a goal out because that's what somebody else has got and it's not truly what you want. We've been doing a lot of values exercises. We did the values with my legacy and leadership group, which was amazing. And it's Dr. John DeMartini and Lewis Huxteth, their method. And it was such a beautiful exercise to actually really come up with the core values by looking at your life and understanding what truly is important to you from a values perspective, and how can you be living your values in your diary every single week. Being really profound, and there was things that come up that the girls didn't even realize was a value, and that it actually was coming from, for me, my number one core value is teaching and coaching and learning. And it comes from my big core wound of being told that I was not smart at school, I didn't love school. I wasn't
Mhm.
like you. I didn't love it. I was the girl that was always talking too much and, all that kind of stuff. I just hated being in the constraints of a classroom. It just wasn't my thing. And yeah, like literally that's my number one. And, a lot of people think that it needs to be family or, think that it has to be this certain way. But I know if I teach, coach, and learn, I'm going to be a better mum. Like it's my number one,
Yeah.
And do you do some values exercise with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that again, it's a fulfillment based model is what do you value? And there's no right or wrong in what it is that you value. And um, really actually being able to get people to recognize what drives you in life are your values. You're going to be subconsciously drawn to doing things because it's at your core what you value, and you'll be subconsciously not drawn to things because that's what you value. And our values can change
Yeah.
as well, and our values can be molded based on our wounding and our past experiences and our traumas. And so, um, really evaluating what are your values and where do they come from is a really powerful tool as well. And to know, some people value control. And I had one client that I worked with years ago in an organization, and he kept building companies, and then they'd fall apart. And then you'd build the company back up, and then they'd fall apart. And it was always, the staff and the employees, they're all shit. Like you can't find good staff these days, and rah rah rah. And when we went through the values, and to me, I'm like, there's no right or wrong, but one of the things that we highlighted was control. Control was one of his high values. And so I was like, how much control do you think that you're going to gain or lose by building a company? And when he sat in that, he realized, I'm going to lose control. The more I expand, the less control I'm going to have. And I'm like, it's not your employees it's the problem. You're sabotaging. You're sabotaging everything that you build because you start to feel when you get to a certain point, the loss of control. And so you actually sabotage it and bring it back to a small level that your brain doesn't want to be at, but your nervous system, your values are like, oh, this is where I feel secure, this is where I feel in control. And so I said to him, rather than saying control's bad value, I said, okay, what are all of the ways you could get more control and feel more in control by growing the company? And so then you start attaching your tasks to those values,
Yeah.
which you do in your planning. It's like, what are your values? Attach your tasks to those. Then you're not going to be sabotaging. You're going to be naturally drawn to it. You can build because you're getting more control. Essentially, that's what you perceive.
I love it. I think the values are, I think we really got to get super clear on what they are.
Yeah,
And the more we live them, the more fulfilled and inspired we feel.
exactly.
I think it's really a key.
Mm.
Subconscious mind, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah,
It's such a big one, isn't it?
yeah,
95% of the day we are in our program mind, the habitual mind, the subconscious mind, the record of the past.
yeah.
How much control does that have over people and the way that they live their life?
I believe it was Joe Dispenza who talked about at the start that said by the age of 35,
35.
95% of what we do, think, believe is set. Doesn't mean that we can't change that. Um, but to me, and this is what we alluded to at the start of this conversation, it's like I'm a mindset coach, but I would say I'm a mindset coach that helps you get out of the mind. Because to me, and also how I know that you perceive it as well, it's the mind is where the limitations are. It's programmed, it's conditioned, it's damaged. It is through our developmental years, which, as you said, 0 to 7. We are literally computers that are programmed by our caretakers and by our environment and by our experience. And we are not responsible for our programming, but we are responsible as adults for reprogramming the things that do not serve us. And we are the hardware, but the software that gets put on, that is what we can work with. And when you actually recognize how limited the brain is, that's when you start to notice what a poor decision making machine it is. And one of the things that I'll say to my clients is whatever word you want to use, but the soul or your higher self or your spirit, that should be the decision maker. Your mind should be the implementer. The soul should be the decision maker. The mind should be the implementer.
We always say the heart is the barometer to everything. It's so powerful, and I don't think people really realise that. It's your intuition. It's the, and I think there's not enough quiet time.
Yeah.
You know,
There's not. And if you think about it in this way, that we could walk all different paths in life. There's different options and there's different paths. And what most people want, because an achievement-based model, again, is like, do this, get this. Here's the formula, here's the pathway. And so what we're wanting in life when it comes to purpose or our greatest potential or what we're here to do and our mission, we want the formula. We want the roadmap. We're like, give me the start to the end so I know if I do X, Y, I'm going to get Z. We're looking for that predictability. It doesn't work like that. When you've got these options of these paths to walk, I believe, this is just a belief of mine, that your soul can see the end of that path. Your higher self can see the end of the path that you're going to walk. Your mind cannot. Your mind can only see what's in front of it. It can only see what it's been told. It only knows what it knows. It only knows what it's observed. And therefore, if you're making mind-based decisions to try and find your purpose in life and try and find your mission, you're never going to see it. And so that's why I shared the story at the start. Whereas for me, I know without any doubt that what I do for work is my life purpose. No, I will never, ever do anything else with my life. I find myself very fortunate and very blessed that I'm one of those people that knows that and has that feeling like yourself. But I did not get there through the mind. I got there by following one intuitive impulse that didn't make sense and that everybody disagreed with after the other and after the other and after the other. And that is how my life has unfolded in quite a magical way to all of these incredible opportunities. And the only key that I can offer people is courage to follow your intuitive impulses, because they know. It's as simple as you've had a feeling to do something or to not do something, you didn't listen to it, and 9 times out of 10, how many times have we or our friends or our family said, "Shh, I knew that. Why did I do that or not do that? I knew it." So for whatever reason, you don't have to get too scientific about it to know that through enough experience, you always seem to know.
Yeah.
You either follow that with courage or you don't, and you prolong the journey, or you deal with the damage that comes from not listening.
You get the sledgehammer.
Exactly.
The sledgehammer. There's always a whisper if you're prepared to listen.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
I love that. A whisper or a sledgehammer.
Yeah, whisper or a sledgehammer, I always say. I'd love to talk about personal energetic frequency. I'm a little bit woo-woo. I think you have to be if you actually want to understand how this beautiful universe of ours works and how we can co-create with it. You know, the words we speak.
Unfortunate that it's seen as woo-woo because it's scientific.
That isn't it funny? Yeah, it's complete science.
Yeah.
You know, the words we speak, that words have power.
Yeah.
The thoughts, feelings, the words, the behaviours, all of it. And is this something that you, what would be your belief system around how we can co-create and know that there is a higher power there that is really working with us to deliver everything that we want?
What a beautiful topic. I actually had this conversation with a client yesterday. So it's fresh in my mind, and it's actually fresh in the way that I live too. And you look at, I call it our energetic blueprint.
Yeah.
Right? So it's we all have an energetic blueprint, which is made up of our thoughts, our beliefs, our conditioning. That's, let's talk about that being sort of the subconscious, right? That's, you've got your conscious mind, which is the things you want to have and the things that you're consciously thinking of, but your actual energetic blueprint, which is what you're attracting or not attracting, comes from those like very set patterns and belief, and comes from the way that we sort of interact with life. And so what happens is, we are a part of the universe, the ecosystem that is the universe. We are another species on this planet.
Yeah.
We're not evolved out of it. We're not separate from it. Our minds make us think that we are, or we disconnect from nature. But absolutely everything that you see in nature receives its sustenance from something outside of itself. And it's this beautiful feedback loop of it gives and it receives, and it gives and it receives.
Yes.
And I think about, we as children, as babies, every single one of us was completely 100% dependent on a power outside of ourselves when we were born, a caregiver or a parent. You look at kids, they don't sit there thinking, where is my meal coming from? Where is the roof over my head? Where are my blankets coming from? They just know, they wake up and there's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's safety or there's security. This is children that obviously live in these fortunate circumstances, but they don't think typically, where is this coming from? Yet at what point do we grow out of that? And I believe it's when we start to be conditioned that anything that you want, you've got to work for it, you've got to earn it. That's why money is, what do you earn, right? And earning's about deservedness. When do we start having that brainwashing come into place, right? It's just like, you got to deserve the money that you're making. Why? And so again, that's the achievement-based model of, you got to earn everything. And where there's a will, there's a way. And if you want it, you are responsible for having it, and you have to force. And that's why when people talk about powerhouse processes like surrender, everybody thinks it's woo-woo or it's lazy or it's fluffy. And I was like, that is the key to co-creating with the power outside of yourself. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're sick of no one else being able to support you the way that you support other people, if you never feel that you get the sustenance that you need, you've always got to work and hustle for it, then you have become disconnected from the truth of the universe, which is everything that you give, you also receive. And if we can tap back into that truth, then we are going to start feeling supported in a way that we only felt when we were children.
Yeah.
And we are children of the universe.
Yeah, and it's just the knowing, isn't it? Like, it's a knowing. You don't have to even question it, and I think that's a beautiful, special thing.
Yeah.
As, and when that can land, I know a lot of my clients, they do hit, there's been a lot of money stories.
Yeah.
Like, huge. There's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of dysfunction when it comes to money, an energy source, and yet we give it so much meaning. So, when it comes to, do you believe in doing the money story work?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you do for recoding that, that relationship with money? For me, we've got to build that relationship. It's that beautiful relationship. We've got to, I know for me, I was disassociated. I saw a lot of fights when it came to money growing up.
Yeah.
My parents were entrepreneurs. So I just disassociated from it. That was my biggest thing. And I would look in the bank account and go, oh, yep, we're good. And if we weren't, I'll just work harder.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, my dad still works 100 hours a week. And I remember just sitting there going, that on my end of my bed, I don't want to work 100 hours a week. That's not for me. Surely there's another way. I think that was, is this as good as it gets? That question, I think that's a really big question. But the money part of it was big work that I had to do. To really find the resistance and find the stories that were in, that I'd been conditioned and coded with. And it's been a beautiful journey because I've been able to share it with my brothers and sisters. And what are some of the things that you recommend when it comes to building that relationship with money?
I love the way that you frame it too, because it is an energetic relationship that we're either attracting or we're repelling. And the reason why I believe money is such a beautiful journey to do that work. Some people hear money and they're like, oh, yuck, there's immediate repulsion to it. Whereas the beauty in the journey of healing your relationship with money is because money is the resource that in our current day and age, in our current society, that our survival is attached to. It didn't used to be like that. It could have been the weather, right? It could have been like the strength to provide shelter, or the speed to run away from animals chasing you, whatever it would be. You go through different centuries, and there's different things that our survival's attached to. In our day and age, it's money. And so everything that that pulls us out of our disconnect, out of our connection to nature, and therefore our alignment, our harmony, our fulfillment, and our peace, is our fear of our survival. And so that's the money work. That's the purpose of doing the money work. It's actually doing the work around your security and your safety in life, and how much you trust. And when we don't trust and that our needs are going to be met by some higher power or something outside of us, or our co-creation with that, then everything is stress. Everything is fear. And the way that we make decisions is, it's a practical decision or a sensible decision. I can't leave my job to do the thing that I am passionate about, that I love, because I need to replace my salary. That's not sensible. And really, if I pull that thread, it's all the practicality and sensibility in the world is just fear disguised as that practicality and sensibility. And so that doing the money work is a beautiful journey for that reason. It will bring you peace and alignment back into your life. And so some of the things that you first want to look at is, why do you hate money? So people say, I want it, I want it. And one of the things that I'll ask them is, tell me why you hate it. But I don't hate it. Like, you will. Think deeper. Really look into it. It's like, because I feel restricted by it. I feel like I can't live the life that I want to have without it, or I feel like it's the root of all evil, or I feel like it ruined my family, I feel like it ruined my relationship. If we actually dug deep into this subconscious belief set, you'd actually find your resistance to money and your anger towards money, or your hatred towards money. And that's the first part that's kind of got to heal. You've got to look at money as a resource that flows to and from you, rather than all of these judgments and meanings that we put onto it.
Good. I could just sit here and talk to you for ages. I think we've been going for a little while already. Got a couple of rapid fire questions that I'm going to throw at you. What does living your best life mean to you?
For me, this is a question that I was thinking about earlier today, where I was like, what does it actually mean as success as well? Like what is a successful life to me? And I know it's being in alignment for myself. Like, when I am in alignment with, which is what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, is in harmony with who I am, that to me is fulfillment. That to me is when I feel a deep level of trust and patience and contentment and joy. Like, that's where joy and play comes in. And for me, if I don't have a life that is fun and funny and joyful and full of laughter
and connected
and connection, then that is not a life that I want to look back on. That is something that I would heavily regret if I had all of these achievements, but I couldn't tell you the last time I had a big belly laugh with a loved one. That to me is, for me, a failure of my existence, because that's how I'm wired. And so alignment to me is the key of when I am living my best life, I am in alignment. Who I am is connected with what I'm doing.
Yeah, being your authentic self. And also something that you said there was, and I think it's triggered something, that we need to be able to create these businesses that work into our life, and not our life be, built around the business. And that was one of the things that I learned the hard way.
We all do. Like camel ways, yeah.
So it's been, for me, I was very cortisol addicted.
Yeah.
Very, very cortisol addicted. It's only been the last couple of years that I've really, even started to breathe properly and not be at such a fast pace. And it's okay. I used to get really, an overwhelming feeling of guilt would come over me if I watched TV, or I needed to be doing more. It was just a coping mechanism, I realised, from trauma.
Yeah.
So it's been a beautiful journey, even for me, this journey of becoming. So, Jess, what's the best piece of advice you've been given?
on this topic because obviously,
Any topic.
I mean, maybe to tie it in with what we're talking about. I learned and I got told by a mentor a couple of years ago that my impatience towards my goals. I'm a highly impatient person. I remember as a kid they used to tell me, Jess, patience is a virtue, and I'd be like, it's not a virtue I want then. Like what is the purpose of patience? To me, I saw patience as being passive, as being lazy, as you're not going to have what it is that you want if you're being patient. You've got to go out and you've got to get it. And so that was a framework that I held really strong for all of my life until a couple of years ago, where I was told by a mentor that my impatience is a lack of trust. Because if I actually knew, if you knew, or if your listeners knew 100% without doubt, the goal that you had, that you're striving towards, was absolutely yours. It is going to come into your life. You are going to have it. What would happen to our impatience then? And so I started to realize that impatience is actually distrust.
Yeah, distrust in self
Distrust in self,
and
distrust
the
in my
universe.
power. Yeah, distrust that I actually am going to have it. And when we're talking about cortisol addicted and dopamine addicted and this hustle culture and this burnout culture and achievement culture, to me, the best piece of advice that I got to get me out of that space and into more peace and harmony and flow and alignment
Trust yourself.
was trust. Was build and develop your trust, Jess. And the more that you are trusting, the less impatient, the less urgent, the less addicted to busyness you will become. And that's exactly what has happened to me.
Which really comes back to connection to self and connection to, the higher power. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, where can our listeners find you? I'm sure they're going to be wanting to follow you. And have you got anything that you're, working on at the moment that you'd like to share with our listeners?
So they can find me on, if they're on Instagram, you can find me at That's Jess Cameron. I'm sure I can send you the links and you can pop it in your in the podcast bio. You could send me an email too at connect@jesscameron.com if it's something that you're wanting to work with me personally. I did at the end of last year do a course all on emotional regulation. So if any of your listeners were wanting to do that, that's all recorded. They can watch all of those recordings back. That was a 5-part model of a practical 5-part series of how to become more emotionally regulated and build your emotional capacity, because my belief is if you want bigger things in life, you have to have a bigger emotional capacity. And so in learning actually how to do it, would have loved if a course like this was in school. But
It's one of the questions that we say is, can your nervous system and your emotional capacity hold your dreams?
oh, I love that. That's brilliant. That's a truth bomb right there, Beck. And that's the truth. So I did a course on that if people are interested in that, and just follow me on Instagram too, or be part of my email list, because that's where I'll be doing a lot more courses this year as well.
Beautiful.
Along that
Well, I'm
process.
moving to, I'm going to be in the Gold Coast a bit. I'm hoping that I get to catch up with you
Oh, we will.
and catch up again. Thank you so much, Jess, for being a beautiful guest today. There's been so many nuggets of gold and wisdom in here. I really appreciate your time and thank you, my love.
Thank you. It's an honor to have been asked on here. Thank you. And thank you to your listeners. If you've gotten this